what's going on everyone, and welcome to the RC Retro channel. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the Tamiya Super Avante TD4. Obviously not a build video, it's obviously put together already, but what I am going to share with all of you is my honest opinion of how the build went, what I think about it, talk about what I like, talk about some important tips and reminders for all of you who are planning on putting one of these together. We're going to talk a little bit about the battery going in and out and how long that takes. So we're going to be doing a time test on that. We're going to talk a little bit about the lay down shocks in the front. And of course, I'm not going to say a major issue, but one of the issues I had with building this as far as the steering. And we'll look at that in a little bit more depth later on in the video. So I'm going to break the video up into parts, starting with first, what I like about the build. Well, the first thing I like is that there are a whole bunch of upgrades for the TD4 that came out at the exact same time when the kit was released. Only issue is, hard to get your hands on them now because they seem to be all sold out. Luckily, I was able to get my hands on the three that I think are essential to this build. Number one, the slipper clutch. Number two, the blue anodized servo stays to reduce the flex of the servo. And number three, the blue anodized T-nut, which you use for the ball diff to tighten it. So from watching a lot of previous videos of builds for the TD4, it seems like when you put the diff screw through the differential to tighten it, the T-nut, which is plastic and that's supplied with the kit, strips, and that's not a good thing. So Tamiya put out an aluminum one, which is pretty cool and blue. So that's called the T-nut. And you put that on one side of the diff and the screw goes through the other and it tightens and there's no stripping and then your diff is good. All right. So it's also the attention to detail that catches my eye, little things that I was impressed with throughout the build. So I compiled the list over here in no particular order, so we're going to run through that very quickly. With hop-ups, you get the cool blue anodized parts. Well, you also got a few of those as well with the kit. You have the actual drive shaft, which came in the blue, aluminum, and the motor plate. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the wheel nuts. It's all about the wheel nuts. Also, in a lot of Tamiya kits, they come with those awesome plastic bushings or bearings, whatever you want to call them. Well, this is completely ball race. Comes with bearings, so that's a very nice touch. But what do you expect for $300 and up? I would expect for that kind of price, you would have all bearings, which it does. Another nice feature on here are the dust covers that are on the ball connectors. I built many Tamiyas, none of which have those, so the fact that they're on here is pretty cool. Like I said, it's the little attention to details, it's the little things that impress me so far. Also, the adjustable turnbuckles on here, so this way you can adjust your toe and your camber. The ball diffs, you have a front and a rear ball diff on here. Right away when I was unboxing this and I was taking a look at all the sprues on here, the plastics just seem to be a better quality. I just recently put together a TA08 Pro on the channel, which is, you know, a more expensive kit, around the same price as this, I want to say, and it has the nice plastic. You just tell it's a better grade, and the same thing on here. Just overall, just has a much better finish and flex to them, so that's a nice touch on here as well. And finally, as I'm looking over my list over here, for the front and rear arms, it does not use hinge pins or those little annoying E-clips that, you know, bounce off all over the place and then you lose them. Nope, just simple pins that go through the front and the rear arms, and then they're held in place with screws on either side. I'm not a fan of the hinge pins because those, you know, bite in and dig into the plastic and kind of weaken the plastic every time you take them out and put them back in. So the fact that these just have pins that slide in and then you have a screw that goes in right next to it that overlaps the hole a little bit to keep them in place is a nice touch. So this way we're not, you know, digging into the plastic and backing it in and out, backing it in and out, and, you know, just deteriorating your plastic over time. So those are a couple of things I like. Now we're going to move on to some important reminders on here. Now these are just things that you should be aware of if you're going to buy one of these, or, you know, you have one already and you haven't put it together yet. So first off, the pinion gear comes with a 17-tooth 0.6 module pinion gear. And that's fine if you're going to put the kit together as is. But if you're going to go with the slipper clutch on here, well then you're going to have to get yourself a new pinion gear. So luckily in my parts bin I had a 48 pitch 18 tooth pinion gear which meshes with the slipper clutch. So keep that in mind if you're going to upgrade to the slipper clutch. Also, what do I have over here? The diff screw strips. Oh, the aluminum T-nut piece, which is the aftermarket part that everyone should buy, and make sure you get two because you have a front and a rear ball diff. So the kit supplied plastic one strips, no surprise there. And so Tamiya offers a metal T-nut which prevents it from stripping and keeps your diff running smooth. So make sure you get one of those if you can still get your hands on them, because you know a lot of those aftermarket parts for the TD4, like I was saying, are either on back order or have just been all bought up and have very limited supplies all over the place because you know it's a new product and everybody wants all those hop-up parts for theirs, and also to remedy that particular issue. All right. And also you're going to need a low profile servo. I have a JX servo in here. I got them from Amazon. I got a couple off of Amazon. Fix It Phil and my buddy Harry recommended them. They have decent torque and they're pretty quick as well. And they're only about, I think, $16 or $17. So Amazon, 2 or 3 days later, bingo bango, can't go wrong with that, right? Now, just a reminder, I'm looking down at my notes over here. When you're putting the servo in, you want to make sure that you put in the A19 spacer for the servo. And because if you don't, your servo saver will probably not be high enough and will end up either rubbing or knocking into the drive shaft. So make sure you put the A19 spacer in there, depending on the size of your low profile servo. Okay, keep that in mind. What's next? As far as the issue I had with the build, when the build was complete and I got all my electronics in there, my servo, I noticed that the range of my steering was very limited, and it felt like when the servo was moving back and forth, it was knocking into something, causing a tremendous amount of flex, even with the metal servo stays. And I couldn't figure it out because there was already a tremendous amount of flex with the plastic ones that I saw in other people's videos. And now, to remedy it, I went and got the aluminum servo stays, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? And so I went back into the manual, looked it over a couple times, then I started to take the car apart and realized that in step 40, when you're putting your uprights together, it calls for you to put in an A1 and an A2 spacer with a screw, and the screw also acts as a spacer. And in the directions, in the fine print, because you got to read everything, it says adjust the spacers according to your running service, or to take out the spacers. And so I removed one of the spacers, the bigger of the two, and then I had a lot more range in the steering, and I also had a lot less flex with the servo stays. So I'm going to put a side-by-side comparison of all the spacers in and my range of steering versus with one of the spacers taken out, and you could see there's quite a difference. And there's obviously a lot less flex as well going on there. So that's something for you to keep in mind when building. And that was the only real issue I had with the build, was that once it all went together, I had to take, you know, the tires in the front off and the uprights off and look over the directions like 1 or 2 times, and then the little light bulb went on above my head and I was like, take the spacers out. You get a much greater range of steering. I don't know if I'm going to need to take that other spacer out until I get it out on the track to see, but you know, that's something that I will be playing with later on in the future. Okay? Now let's take a look at these shocks. The TD4 comes with lay-down inboard shocks, and they seem to rebound nicely. Now I know there's no battery in here right now, but at the beginning of the video, when you saw the drop test, there was a battery in there and the suspension rebounded nicely. So with that, I'm really looking forward to getting this on the Port Royal Raceway and seeing how it handles the jumps and the turns. But for right now, it does seem nice and plush, and I don't think I'm going to have to make any adjustments to it at the moment. But again, won't know for sure until we get it out on the track. But the whole idea of lay-down shocks is not new to Tamiya. If you recall, their TA06, yes, I have another on-road car that I've added to my collection, and there will be a video out in the future of this. But the TA06 had the option to do the lay-down shocks. And you could build it with the shock tower and the stand-up shocks, the traditional way, but they also gave you the option to do it with the lay-down shocks. Also with the TA06, interestingly enough, a lot of people weren't really happy with the whole way you put the battery in. You have to take this whole compartment, this whole like panel off with a couple of screws to put the battery in and then screw it back in there. And you know, a lot of people didn't like that idea. And sure enough, with the TD4, one of the major concerns that many people have is how hard is it, or how easy is it, depending how you're looking at it, is to put the battery in and take the battery out. So we're going to move on to that, and I'm going to do a little model time test of how long it takes to open this up, put a battery in, and then close it back. So one of the more common questions I get asked on the RC Retro Facebook group or on my Instagram page is, what is it like putting the battery in and taking it out? Is it really as hard as people are saying it is, with opening this whole thing up and then closing it and putting the screws and the clips back in? So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to showcase how to do that and how long it would take. So I'm going to put a little clock in the corner and time myself. I'm cheating a little bit because I do have an electric screwdriver here, but I do have the torque turned down, so I'm not going to be stripping any screws. I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to open everything up, put the battery in, and put everything back and see how long it takes. Here we go. So first we have screw number 1. We have screw number 2 over here. We have pin 1, pin 2. Take off that arm drops. This goes right up. The whole front end actually droops down. Put the battery in like this. Slides right in. You connect your T-plug. There you go. Push that down here. Now you're going to lift up this. This is probably the hardest part right over here, getting this steering rod back in here. So I'm going to push that in. Let's see, come on, go in. Gotta make sure that ball lines up inside there. There you go. Now you gotta get the pin in through the little hole. Boom. This one goes over the top up here. Good movie, by the way, Over the Top. All about arm wrestling. Okay, now I'm gonna put this, line this up. There and there. I think we're in. I think we're in like Flynn. Let's see. Boom. And boom. There you go. You're in. Battery's in. Battery's connected. There you go. Now, I don't have the driver figure in here yet, so I don't know how that's going to be going over with all the wires. I might have to reconfigure it and turn the ESC back around the other way. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to put the driver figure in here, but that's opening up the shocks to put the battery in and, you know, closing everything back up. Not too bad. Not too bad. So on a final note, you probably noticed I did not use those neon yellow star dish wheels that come with the TD4. Rather, I have JC Racing wheels on here. I bought them off their website. They're out of the UK. They look exactly like the Vanquish or the VQS wheels. However, I purchased these way before Tamiya re-released the VQS or the Vanquish, and they've just been sitting in a box since, and I decided to use them on here think they look a lot better than neon yellow, and they will match the color scheme I'm getting the body painted in. Yes, no body. I shipped the body off to be custom painted. I'm not saying who's painting the body yet, but when I get it, obviously in a follow-up video, you'll see the body, and then we'll get this out for some running footage, probably in a ball field, and do a little freestyle action, hit the RC retro ramp, send it flying, and then there'll be another follow-up video to that, probably on the Port Royal Raceway, which brings me to my next thing. These tires probably won't last very long. For the freestyle footage, great. For the track, I'm probably going to switch over to the J Concept Goosebump tires for the fronts and the rears. So wheels, tires, body covered. You can expect that in a future episode, all right? So, hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was rather lengthy. I just felt it was important to share with all of you some information about the TD4 as far as what I thought was, interesting during the build, what you should expect during the build, a couple important reminders if you plan on building it, how to avoid the steering situation like me. Don't make the same mistake that I made, but I'm here to share my knowledge with you. And, also with the steering servo and all that other stuff. So I hope you take this knowledge and apply it to your build and have a fun, successful build and enjoy the TD4 as much as I plan on enjoying it, all right? So again, thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take care now.